Dips, lovely to meet you. CTO of Kroo. You're going to be talking to us about some of the challenges of building a digital bank. First, tell us, what is social banking?
Social banking can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. For us, social banking is about how banking services and products connect people financially. So it's about simplifying how money is used, removing all the awkwardness and fuss around it, making sure money can move fast, securely, in a way with all the protection that you expect from your bank, but at the same time is in a very naturally intuitive manner that you're trying to achieve, that supports groups of people, families, friends. That's what it is for us.
Help me understand the five-a-side analogy, because I like that one. That was the penny drop moment for me where I understood it. How would that process actually work if you're using Kroo?
Yeah, sure. One of the common issues that we identified with five-a-side football was that a lot of teams kick off, they have a few games, and then things fall apart. One of the most common reason that we heard why teams did not continue or last too long was all the awkwardness in the team captain having to chase up on pitch fees, on bookings, trickiness around how you, if you go out for drinks after the game, how do you manage, split, track your spending, who spent
Yeah.
what, where. You might select a number of different venues, and it gets more and more complicated each time. So
Yeah.
what we have got with Kroo is an e-money account right now, that enables us to track how money is spent, organize people in groups, send out payment requests, manage scheduled payments. You can track all your spending and effectively manage it with significant ease. And that's what why we are quite happy to think that we're solving an important problem for five-a-side football teams.
I agree. Talk to us a little bit about Kroo's mission, your role as CTO with Kroo, and what that's really looked like for the last couple of years.
Sure. Yeah. So I joined Kroo about a couple of years ago to lead the work on IT strategy, governance, and controls required to enable Kroo to transition into a fully licensed bank in the UK. And I'm happy to say, as of 24th of June, last Friday, we are now a fully licensed bank in the UK. So yeah, that's been an amazing achievement for the team at Kroo. And yeah, it's required a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, as most things worth in life usually do. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I'm currently responsible for all areas of IT, architecture, data engineering, infrastructure,
Yeah.
operations, and security. So that's me. um, Crew was started with an intent to look at removing financial awkwardness in transactions between friends, families, so the social aspects of it. We didn't want to look at how do we change banking to make it more social. We were looking at, hey, what are the social aspects that people care
Yeah.
about, and how do we give them some of the features and services that banking provides or they want to use. So that's where the concept of it is was envisioned from the ground up in a totally different manner. It's about making sure not just something that customers feel that they are getting the help from their bank, they're protected by their bank, but also a banking product and solution that they absolutely love to use and share with their friends and families. Right, that's the core of our proposition. Not something that's draconian, but it's focused on all aspects of financial wellness for our customers, but also
Yeah.
making sure that it's good for the planet. And that's what makes Crew such an exciting proposition in social banking.
Nice. Okay. What's next for you guys and girls? We touched on a bit of that, but I know that you wanted to talk about a couple of things. What's next for you guys and girls?
Yeah, so Right now, we are kicking off our personal current account. That's the one that's in the works. We are launching our first financial product as a fully licensed bank. This is going to be a personal current account for our customers. The countdown to it is on, and we have a growing wait list of prospective customers already. So
Good.
you can come on our website or download our app and join the wait list.
Love it. Love it. Talk to us about this license. We've touched on it a couple of times now. Last Friday was obviously a significant day. Tons of work's gone into that. Help the listeners understand what that process really looks like, getting a fully licensed UK account.
It's a long, drawn out process. It takes a lot of time, a lot of care, a lot of diligence goes into getting a full UK banking license. The financial services markets is quite highly regulated, and our UK regulators are really set the standard in terms of what good looks like in terms of customer protection, stability of the banking ecosystem, and meeting that bar to be able to demonstrate you have a solid business model and can drive and meet the regulatory requirements around operating a full bank is a challenge for a number of organizations, especially if you're starting up small, you're a fintech. So there are a number of areas, and it doesn't take like one or two people to build it or get a license. It takes a village, as the saying goes. The process for us took almost 2.5-3 years, and that's just the main part of the process. Initially, you need to have a contact with the UK regulators. That's the FC and the PRA. Talking about your intent to apply. They will have some questions around what the business proposition is, what the business model is going to be, how is it going to be structured, how are you planning to make money and keep it operational, and some aspects around controls and governance. Thereafter, you have a high-level summary meeting, which focuses on the proposition. How would you keep the customer, the banking ecosystem safe and protected, but also stable? That's the main criteria. And then you have a number of feedback cycles where they would ask for additional details, market research, risks, mitigations. What does your governance structure look like? What kind of controls do you have? Capital adequacy is another key aspect. So they look at multiple aspects, and it's effectively a feedback loop with lots of questions and answers. And then you would be submitting what's called a regulatory business plan and a number of supporting documents. We were looking at like several hundred documents, several over 1,000 pages of processes and policies and things like that, all of which play a key role in shaping the organization and implementing a lot of the requirements that are required by the regulators. So again, once you submit the regulatory business plan and the documents, it goes through that again feedback loops. And then things start moving to the next stage where you look at the regulators review the senior management functions or people who would be playing those key roles. They look at your capital adequacy and liquidity plans. And then once they're happy with all the documents, processes, policies, you enter a phase called, you get your authorization with restrictions. So for us, it was in July, I think July 7th last year, when we got our authorization with restriction.
What does that mean?
So effectively, you're authorized as a bank, but it's not a full license.
Right.
There would be certain restrictions placed on you. The most significant amongst them for a bank in the UK is that you cannot take aggregate customer deposits exceeding £50,000.
Got you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, £50,000 is a relatively small amount. It doesn't make it, you can't really be operational as a bank. So the idea with that restriction is to ensure that you do not increase the risk, but at the same time, look at testing out some systems like how you're connected to payments, running banking ledgers, part of different payment schemes, your set settlements, etc., and effectively get to run and use a lot of the systems that, unless you are a bank, you can't really get access to or really test out in earnest. So
Yeah,
that's the main area of focus in authorization with restriction, with and that's a mobilization phase. So typically, organizations have about a 12-hour window, 12-month window to look at
got
in
you.
terms of when they can, um, when they're typically in mobilization. And once there may be certain criteria, such as they would review your IT controls and governance, IT strategy. One of the things you need to submit is a set of documents, and what kind of controls you have, and there could be different stipulations around that. And then you submit a variation of permission, which is effectively enables the regulators to confirm that they are happy to lift the £50,000 restriction, and
Got you.
that's how you get our full banking.
Party time. Party time. What was that? Was that 12 months period where you're authorized and restricted? Was that quite a good learning phase, because you touch on IT strategy there as something that they will review? Was that almost like a 12-month breathing gap of this is what we need to learn more about, or did you feel you already knew the ecosystem quite well?
So for us, Elliot, the IT strategy is something that they want to ensure that it's approved through the management, has been approved by the board. They would
Yeah,
review the IT strategy. Strategy is longer than 12 months. They want to ensure that it has enough runway. It takes into account how the organization or the bank plans to scale up over the
yeah,
next few years, looking at both products, key aspects like governance, risk management, project and change management, outsourcing of different services, but also core things like service delivery, incident management,
yeah.
backup, and disaster recovery. Their intent is to ensure that IT is that there is that thought process and strategy that you're thinking about these key considerations, but also controls which show how are you ensuring that the the policies and processes are being followed, being adhered to, and demonstrate that all of it works as expected, right? So
Got you.
that's the key part. But like I said, testing of payments, that you can use your card with card providers in different schemes, uh, connectivity for faster payments and things like that, become easier, and you can start running them while you're in it. We have been
Got
using
you.
this time to run a closed testing loop with some of our friends and families within
Nice.
work to make sure that all of our functionality works.
Got you. Cool. Okay. I do want to talk about tech, architecture, and how you actually built Kroo. I'd love to try and uncover that and understand some of the whys in there as well. So this will probably require you to think back 2 years ago, 2 and a bit years ago, when you joined. What did the technology state of Kroo look like then? Take us through what you look like today as well.
So primarily, our tech stack is React Native apps for iOS and Android. We are cloud native on AWS as our cloud provider, with Terraform for infrastructure as code. We have Clojure microservices. We use something called HAL for RESTful microservices. HAL is Hypertext Application Language. It's built on top of REST. It's on the Richardson maturity model for REST. It gives us additional describability and discoverability of services. We have an event-driven architecture with Kafka at its core. We use Postgres for our database. It has a native JSON support, and that's been a key driver for us using it. We use Concourse CI for continuous delivery pipelines. A
Yeah,
number of open source cloud native foundation products like Prometheus, Grafana, Alert Manager, and also a lot of commercial tools like Datadog.
got you. Got you. Why Clojure?
Clojure was an interesting choice, and its selection
Really
even
interesting.
predates me. Kroo's been going for about 7 years in total now, and Clojure was the language that we selected for our microservices. The thinking was, what we took into consideration was it's a very practical, very pragmatic language. It helps to organize a fast and efficient um, software delivery life cycle and processes to support it. It runs on tried and tested JVM, so we use Clojure
Yeah.
on our JVM. It also runs on, like, there's a JavaScript version of it that you can run on browsers, but our usage of Clojure is on the JVM for our microservices. It's quite simple. It has an everything as code view, so it's you have the ability to interoperate with a lot of libraries in Java, which is a tried and tested enterprise grade language and platform that's got a number of things that organizations need to be able to build out a full banking ecosystem of services and products. It makes it's We have definitely seen that's very expressive. Gives us a boost in terms of productivity of how quickly we are able to generate and new features and products and launch them. Robust. It's got, the focus is on small testable components. Um,
Yeah.
Clojure has great features that support immutability, as well as how you can manage and be aware of side effects, or rather the lack of it, all coming from its functional programming paradigm, right? So those are the key reasons why we selected Clojure. Of course, it comes with its own challenges, but yeah, these were the positives that made us select Clojure as our language of choice.
Got you. I even think it's a brave move 7 years ago. It is quite a brave move.
True. The probable challenges that made it braver were that fact that there's a very niche market for developers at
Yeah.
that time. Not a lot of people were into Clojure. Other aspects like tooling, for instance, was not as well developed.
Yeah.
We have put in a lot of effort. Kroo also publishes a number of packages and some contributes them back into the Clojure open source community as well. So
Nice.
that's an area that it's about building the whole ecosystem as we go along. Things are vastly different now. There are a number of organizations,
Yeah.
not just in financial services, but in related spaces like prop tech or legal
Yeah.
tech and insure tech, who are also using Clojure based microservices.
Yeah, I think that support system's key, really, or that's how I understand it. As in, that's what I meant. As in, it's a brave move, probably from two angles. Like a recruitment standpoint, as in hiring people that understand the language, but even that support system. In the wider ecosystem, people actually using it to be able to help you on issues. I can imagine that could have been a challenge.
And that's one of the good things. Clojure community is small and has been small. If you look at languages, right, the definitive guide on that is the TOB index, which looks at language adoption, the ones that are being adopted
Yeah.
widely, the communities around it, libraries, and so on. So it doesn't make it into the top languages. But what's been really good about Clojure is, even though its community is small, it's close knit. There's a lot of collaboration and cooperation. A number of participants in the ecosystem find that they get a lot of support, friendly advice, help from the rest of the ecosystem. And I think that sometimes exceeds that of other more well-known or well-loved
Yeah.
languages. So
Fair point. What do you think the challenges are for neobanks or digital banks of today's age? What do you think the challenges are for them?
are you looking at the challenges to become a neobank, or the challenges after you become a neobank?
Okay, good question. Tell me about both.
So if you think about, if you have decided you want to become a neobank, and the challenges there are it's a multi-dimensional problem. It's not just about IT or technology. That's
Yeah.
Even though a number of these neobanks are digital, often digital first and cloud native,
Yeah.
it's technology is just one dimension of it. Like I said, it takes a whole village. You need people from compliance, from finance, from legal, from customer support, operations. So you have to think about a number of aspects of what it means to run and operate as a bank. and look at it from a customer centric viewpoint of what your what's your value proposition, what you're trying to provide them as products and services. So that's the core part of the problem, and within each of them, these areas, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
If you pick just IT, for instance, it's about understanding um, areas of IT governance. What IT controls do you have? What are the areas of risks and how you manage them? And for a new organization looking to become a bank, it's about defining processes, policies, frameworks, guardrails for all of these in areas like infrastructure, architecture,
Yeah,
security,
got you.
and data.
Got you. Okay. So that's to be a digital bank. What do you think after the challenges are?
So when once you start running as a bank, the next phase of challenges are around how you continue to build and scale. It's just the start of the journey. So as a bank, so you're now the main focus shifts towards operations. How can you continue to operate, provide your customers with the best services for the products that you have, while continuously looking at, okay, what's next, what are you going to build and offer in the short
Yeah,
term, what's coming up in your product roadmap, and making sure you have got all aspects, from risk, from compliance, from operations, not just the product teams building it, all aligned and in sync.
got you. Okay. Talk to me about some of the tech then, because I'm keen to understand where an IT strategy comes into play. We're talking about building and scaling a digital bank. That will come with some of its own technical challenges, but really the core technical challenges would be really good to uncover and understand.
Sure. The core aspects that you would look at in from an IT strategy standpoint are how are you going to build the products, build the whole organization around IT, and what that involves is looking at aspects like, okay, for different sets of products or services you have in mind, how do you intend to build them? Are you looking at building everything? Would you be integrating some of them? If you're looking at integrating, what's your strategy for
Yeah,
selecting providers? What kind of providers do you want to work with? What does the integration architecture and landscape look like for you? How do you ensure your connectivity and integrations are secure? um, what would be the process, the operational processes, in case there are reconciliation gaps or challenges that you need? Some of them have control measures, so you need to look at how have you verified that it's been built securely, how have you tested it, but also looking at things like, okay, if a customer raises a complaint, or there's a missed payment in the system somewhere, or it's not exactly what you expected, how are you then going to be able to follow through and find those, right? So at a strategy level, you define what your approach is going to be. Doesn't require details around the actual implementation. That often gets ironed out later on as the teams work with different products or providers to identify what would be the most suitable thing to integrate with or build as we go along.
there's quite a lot in there.
Yes,
Quite a deep detail on the strategy side.
that's true. Often it's an interesting challenge, because the IT strategy for a bank goes through, everyone will have their own governance process and cycles. But again, the regulators look at the IT strategy to be approved by management and the board before they would go through it and review it as well. They want to make sure that it takes into account things not just in terms of what's required to get it up and running, but also how does it scale. Like,
Yeah,
would it be able to handle increasing load as more customers come on board? Would
yeah,
it require significant changes as it evolves? So they factor in a number of things and dimensions to look at. It's a complex and specialist area. Um,
yeah. It is.
so it does take some, yeah, and it's very interesting. It can happily take a several hours just chatting about it. So yeah.
Where do you think more of the technical challenges sit? With the strategic side of things or actually on the scalability aspects?
If you get the strategy right, it takes into account the approach for scalability for sure,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So that's a solid foundation to build upon. The actual scalability, you would test it as part of your. In fact, some of the work we did even before we entered mobilization, making sure our systems could handle that kind of volume, increased load, and you take into account what worked, you learn if there are lessons to be learned, and upgrade or change your sizing policies and things like that as we go along. So yeah.
What's been your biggest learning from a tech point, do you think?
I think the biggest learning that we have had is in terms of finding the balance between how do you build a fast digital cloud native engineering platform practices and teams, while at the same time adhering to all the regulatory requirements and change management governance control requirements that you have. These are effectively opposing forces, and
Yeah,
finding that sweet path, and it's not a straight line. You often have to zigzag across it to maintain that balance and deliver. That is a really hard nut to crack, I would say.
what do you think the secret sauce is to cracking it?
There isn't a single secret sauce, I would say, or a silver bullet. It You need to identify what works best in your context.
Mm,
There are frameworks that exist, and you can think of, okay, I'm going to apply this 5-step process. A lot of it doesn't work if you try and apply them as a fixed template on organizations. It's about being a part of it, realizing what the core propositions are, what we're trying to achieve,
yeah,
how does the team currently work, what are the challenges they face, and what are things that they are very, at the heart of what they want to do and how they want to do it. So ways of working, right? And then looking at regulations, not just what does the regulation say in terms of the letter of the regulation, but also in terms of the spirit of it. And that helps you find the sweet spot more often than not, where how much you can stretch, how much you can flex, both in terms of the team and in terms of how
yeah,
you are able to demonstrate that you meet all the requirements from a regulatory and control perspective.
got you. So it has been a big couple of months with a full UK banking license, some funding,
Yeah, Series B.
Series B, love it. What's next for you guys aside from the current account? We spoke a little bit about that, but what do you think is next for the business?
So right now, once we launch the current account, it's also about having all the operations, the customer support, making sure that it's not just a product that we launch. It's about making sure we can support our customers. It's a financial product, comes with its own regulation and requirement for us to make sure the customers have a good journey in adopting it, using it. But it's also about what features we're looking to add next. There's a lot of gap in the market in terms of um, a bank being thought of as somebody that cares about the customer's wellness, financial wellness primarily. But and that's an area where we are thinking about how can we make that difference, not just becoming a product that really cares about uh, the customers, but also making sure they love what we build. So that's what's next. In terms of core features, our product roadmap is a public one. We do publish it. There's a very good feedback cycle. We listen and try to follow what our customers are looking for. A number of features come up through our processes of innovation. We run quarterly hackathons. So a number of core features that we have in our apps today have come up from some great ideas that our teams had during hackathons. And that's something that we see as a key driver in how we choose to identify what's next. Is it a savings account that we are looking to launch? Would we be looking at investments? Are there more ESG driven initiatives that we can bring on board? And how can we help launch products and services that are not just good for our customers, but also good for the planet? So that's kind of the thinking that happens, driven by user research, the feedback we get from our customers, and what we see in the market.
Nice. Okay. It wouldn't be an Engineers podcast if we weren't asking you how you plan to use some of that funding, about where you want to hire, if you want to hire, particularly in engineering teams. So from your point of view, being the CTO, what do you think that is for, let's just use the next 12, 18 months as a gauge?
Yeah.
What do you think you'll be hiring?
So if we look back over the last 2 years and a bit, we have grown our engineering team 5 times. So
nice.
We are on a significant growth trajectory. When I joined, we had about 30 people. As of today, we are around 132. So
nice.
We have grown quite significantly as an overall organization as well. And I'm happy to say there are a number of roles across product, customer support, compliance, risk operations, and engineering. We are actively growing and scaling our organizations. You can find out a lot more on our website. There's a career section on our website. And we're looking for highly motivated people who want to make a difference to banking, have a desire to change what a good social bank means to its customers and create a much loved product and services. That's what we're looking to do.
Nice. Okay. From an engineering point of view, what's the kind of profile that you're going to be looking for in people?
Our typical, we have a cross-functional team, and what we primarily look to hire are full stack engineers, so people who can build features and products end to end. So they're part of delivering not just a cool looking functional screen on a mobile app, but taking it all the way through and making sure it's wired up to all the services and
nice.
the data. And that's how our teams are structured. We focus on products rather than on projects. We follow the squad model, looking at how our teams are organized around products, and that's what we're looking to hire for.
Cool. There's going to be some links below for everyone listening. As always, I want to say a big thanks, Dips. Thanks for coming to share with us a little bit more about Kroo, building a social bank for the world. You're doing some good stuff. There's some more stuff to come. I know we can't share all of it, but there is some good stuff to come. Ladies and gents, follow these guys and girls. If you want to make an impact on social banking, they are doing some cool stuff, and you've only got to go and see their website to have a look at that. But if you are in engineering and feel like you want to join the journey and join Dips, then come and take a look. And Dips, big thanks. Big thanks.
Thank you, Elliot. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, and it's really good to find people who are excited about social banking and the proposition that we have. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking about this in the future as well, probably.
No doubts. No doubts. And for everyone watching, like, share, subscribe, show your friends and family the product, the podcast, and peace and love, everyone. Enjoy.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Enginears is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found at Enginears.io. It's no_. We've also got a website, which is enginears.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.